Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Torah lesson. Today, being it is the holiday of Chag Sukkot, we are going to be studying a topic of that in which Chabad Hasidim are a little bit different than the rest of the Hasidic and religious community, and that is we are very meticulous about being in the Sukkah for almost every activity, including eating, drinking, even drinking water. We are very careful to eat in the Sukkah. However, when it comes to sleeping in the Sukkah, we skip it. We do not sleep in the Sukkah. And it's not just because out of laziness or discomfort, but actually we follow the Rebbe. And the Rebbe's, not just the Lubavitcher Rebbe of our generation, but the previous generations going back, did not sleep in the Sukkah. And if they didn't, it's not appropriate for us. And the topic of our discussion is, how is it possible to avoid one of the ways to celebrate the holiday? Yes.
What does Teshuvah Sukkot mean?
Teshuvah is seating.
Sit.
Right.
So it could be that the Rebbe,
Teshuvah is not.
sleep.
All right. The problem is that the Talmud teaches us that Teshuvah ke'ein taduru. Teshuvah, also to sit somewhere, it means, aside from sitting in jail, it also means to sit and live the lifestyle that you're accustomed in the house to live in the Sukkah. And therefore it should include sleeping as well. That's the problem. If you take the word Teshuvah literally, then there is no place for eating or drinking in the Sukkah. So I'm studying the book of Likutei Sichos, volume 29, about Chag Sukkot. I'm going to read it in English, in Yiddish, and I'm going to translate it. I'm going to skip some sections and give summaries so we can get to the bottom. In Anhogas Moiri V'chami Admu B'nogei Yeshiva B'Sukkah, the behavior, the custom of my father-in-law, the previous Rebbe, the sixth Lubavitcher Rebbe, regarding living in the Sukkah, we saw two polar opposites. By achila v'shtia b'sukkah, when it comes to eating and drinking in the Sukkah, is there given nizhar ad k'tzei acharon. He was extremely careful to the extreme. Erot machmir given, he was very stringent. As afilu shtias mayim zol nidzayin chutz lesukkah. Even drinking water should not be done outside the Sukkah, even though by Jewish law, there is an allowance. By Jewish law, only a main meal that a person eats or drinking wine should be done in the Sukkah. But water, if somebody needs to or wants to drink water, there is no requirements to go to the Sukkah. Und the Zerus is given a filo b'shmini atzeres. And he was careful about not even water. In other words, when it comes to eating and drink, there is no exclusions, there is no exceptions. All done in the Sukkah, including the 8th day of Sukkot, which you don't even say the blessing of living in the Sukkah. So he was to a very extreme in that regard. Mashenken benogea sheina besukkah, but when it comes to sleeping in the Sukkah, is adraba. Here it's quite the opposite. Menot gizena is nit geschlafen in Sukkah no beveisa. We saw that he never slept in the Sukkah, only in this house. Velichoiro is adraba. Supposedly, it doesn't make sense. The chiyuv von sheina b'sukkah, the obligation to sleep in the Sukkah, is is much more important, has a greater requirements than eating and drinking. Why? Achilas arai, a eating of not a full meal, but just, a small drinking or tasting something, is mutar chutz l'sukkah. There is nowhere in Jewish law that is forbidden to eat outside the Sukkah. The only prohibition is the main meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, holiday. But if you have a piece of cake or you have a drink, it doesn't say that you should not eat outside the Sukkah. And yet he was careful with that, not to do it outside Sukkah. Be'ez, at the same time, as Sheinas Ara is also chutz l'Sukkah. When it comes to sleeping even a not a full night's sleep, just a little bit. In Jewish law, it says you cannot do it outside the sukkah. You must sleep in the sukkah. So you have your polar opposites. When it comes to eating and drinking, if it's not a full meal, you don't have to do it in the sukkah. When it comes to sleeping, even if it's not done a full night, but just few hours or a couple of minutes, it says you must do in the sukkah. That's Jewish law. Yet he reversed the items and drinking and eating even temporarily, even small stuff, what he did in the sukkah. When it comes to sleeping, even a full night's sleep, he slept in his bed. Even though it's very easy to justify it by saying that when someone in our day and age, especially us as human beings, we get affected so badly from discomfort, and therefore if someone is uncomfortable in the sukkah, is exempt. In other words, 10 generations ago, they can sleep outside in the snow and it wouldn't bother them. Today, the AC is just 1 degree higher, everybody's up in arms. So we have, our bodies have changed so dramatically, it's just unbelievable how impacted we are by weather, by change of weather. So therefore, by Jewish law, living in the sukkah is done only as long as it does not cause me pain. If I am in pain, I am exempt from the sukkah. It doesn't matter what activity. So we can justify and say, you know why he didn't sleep in the sukkah? Because in today's lifestyle, sleeping outside my bed, it's a great discomfort. And therefore, he is exempt by Jewish law. In other words, he did not disobey the Torah. Viderdinis, as the Torah tells us in the code of law, the following. As bimkoimo isakorim, in cold places, sheyesh tsar lishon besukkah, when there is a great pain to sleep in the sukkah mechamas hakoir because of the cold, or there is rain, like in New York this year there was rain continuously. Ein tzorich lishon besukkah. It does not. A person is not required to sleep in the sukkah. Shekol hamitztar b'yeshivas hasukkah patur miyeshivasa. Anyone who is going through pain while living in the sukkah or sleeping in the sukkah or eating in the sukkah is exempt from fulfilling the mitzvah. He does not have to. And therefore, in today's day and age, in our communities, it's a very difficult thing to ask someone to stay outside his bed. There are so many people, even hotels, they cannot sleep. When they go on vacation, they come home, they need a vacation. You ask them, why do you need a vacation from the vacation? Because I didn't have my bed, you know, I didn't have my comforter. People need their teddy bear. People need their pillow. If it's not their pillow, God forbid, they wouldn't be able to sleep. I know countless people like that. Says, therefore, maybe that can explain why he did not sleep in the sukkah. Says the Rebbe is ober nochals nit glatik. It's not so simple to justify it in that way. Because by Chakad Mori v'chami admur, because my father-in-law od gashmius dirke tircha because nitoifes smokim given. Such a justification did not bother him at all. He was not bothered by discomfort of not having his own mattress because he's used to a memory foam or to a waterbed. This was totally out of his realm. Only when it comes to adorn the mitzvah in an extra careful way, he always would do it, even if it was great discomfort, because it didn't bother him, not like us. He's a Rebbe. For me, as soon as I'm not sleeping in my bed, it's, we're not used to it. For him, it didn't bother. It didn't matter if it's this bed or that bed. As we saw with regards to fulfilling the mitzvah of Sukkah, when it comes to eating and drinking, no hardship and no discomfort bothered them. And he was very stringent. Even the 8th day of Sukkot, which some say you don't have to, he did. Just as much as we saw as a filu in the Zeiten von Yeridas Gshomim, even when it was raining, pouring raining, that according to law, you're allowed to eat in the house because you're having pain and suffering. You can't eat under the rain. The rain is dripping here with some leaves. It doesn't make sense to stay in the sukkah. He continued making sure to restrict himself from not eating outside the sukkah. While at training, he ate in the sukkah. So therefore, you cannot say that discomfort is the reason for not sleeping. Is moving, therefore it's clear, as sein nicht mehader sein zu schlafen in Sukkah, the fact that he did not sleep in the Sukkah, is not given mitzad der ticha b'tzar gashmi. It wasn't because of the pain or suffering that you might justify in an ordinary person. It just did not apply to a Rebbe. Es ist yodua der Piskam von Hakadmor Amtsoi. The second Rebbe is called the Mittler Rebbe. The Mittler Rebbe, Rabbi Dov Ber, the son of the Alter Rebbe, who was the next leader after the Alter Rebbe, the author of Tanya and Code of Law. He used to say the following phrase: "Viken men shlofen in makifim de bina." How is it possible to live and sleep and let loose of you control of your body while you are surrounded by the surrounding of bina? There is chokhmah, there is bina. Chokhmah is the first of the 10 attributes, Bina is the second. We're going to be studying all of that in the next Kabbalah course, in the essence of Kabbalah. But the Sukkah is a makif. Makif means surrounding all of you. When you're in the Sukkah, you fulfill the mitzvah with your entire body. As I said this holiday, that even the boots with mud are part of the mitzvah. If you walk into a Sukkah from the field and there is mud on your boots, you still fulfill the mitzvah. And the Mittler Rebbe says it's such a holy power that surrounds you all around equally the same. It's a very, very strong godly energy. How is it possible while you're surrounded by so much energy to be sleeping in the sukkah? In other words, he did not sleep in the sukkah not because discomfort. He did not sleep in the sukkah because it was something bad. And it just said it's impossible to fall asleep while I sense that type of energy. It means in the sukkah is meir zeira groiser getlecha oil. In the sukkah it shines. There is a light of a very powerful godly energy. Was is too hoich, which is too high, too powerful, to kennen herabkommen beislamshus in the odom bipnimiusam. It is impossible for it to enter the man internally. That's why it surrounds. That's why it's outside. That's why the sukkah is all around. It's so powerful it cannot enter the human being. Therefore, no, the oil nemtem arom b'vchinas makif, that it takes him around around him outside, surrounding the person equally all over, and therefore. He says it's just like the sukkah takes the human being in its entirety all around, and it doesn't matter which part of the body is in the sukkah. And therefore, because such a powerful light of godliness is expressed in the sukkah, how is it possible to you to fall asleep? Therefore, he sensed that energy, and therefore he couldn't sleep. And therefore, just the Rebbe says, just like Jacob went to sleep when he ran away from his brother, and he sleeps at night, and then in the morning, God comes to him in a dream and says to him, "Don't worry, I'll be with you. I will accompany you when you go to Laban, and when you come back, I'll come back with you." Anybody familiar with that story? So that's the ladder, the ladder that he saw angels coming, going up and coming down. It says over there that he woke up and he says, "Whoa, man nora hamakom hazeh, how great this place!" Because God is revealed here, "Ve'anochi lo yadati," and I had no idea. That's the text. Rashi, the commentator, says, Jacob says, "Had I known that God is so powerful here, I wouldn't be able to fall asleep." Because he slept where later on the holy temple was built. That's where he told God, he made a vow to bring a sacrifice. On the way back, he did bring the sacrifice of thanking God. So when you sense godliness in a place in such a powerful way, it takes away the energy from sleeping. And that's why maybe the Rebbe couldn't sleep, because he sensed the energy that is so great. And says Rabbi, that's why if someone knows by Jewish law, if he knows that going to the sukkah to sleep, he will not be able to fall asleep, and a person is supposed to sleep every day, then he shouldn't, by Jewish law, he shouldn't go to the sukkah. He should stay home and sleep in the house. And that's the reason, says the previous Rabbi, he never slept in the sukkah, because when he was sitting in the sukkah, he felt godliness in such a powerful way, it took away the idea of sleeping. Therefore, he had to go home to sleep, because otherwise he wouldn't sleep. Says the Rabbi, we add one more thing, and make it a little sweeter, according to Jewish law, in sukkah and sukkah. The differentiation between eating, drinking in sukkah versus sleeping in the sukkah. When it comes to the requirements of living in the sukkah just like the way you live in the house, that's the Torah command. Is the Alter Rebbe Mevar, the first Rebbe explained in Code of Law, as kol tircho yaseo she'eino adam mitzar umanei atzmo mitircho zo k'dei leshev b'visu b'kvius is mechuyev litorach k'dei leshev b'sukkos b'kvius. Any activity that a person is used to doing in the house should move it to the sukkah. V'al ze v'negei l'sheino, the same thing is about sleeping. As oib dos is beifen she'imar lo tircho kozo lishon b'visu lo yoshin b'visei ein tzorach lishon b'sukkah she'kol hamitzar b'shuv b'sukkah poter mishuv osa. He continues to say, anything that you're used to do in the house, do in the sukkah. If you don't do it in the house, don't have to do it in the sukkah. And therefore, he goes on, if you wouldn't be able to sleep in the sukkah, in the house, for whatever reason, you're worried, you have an obligation, you have to leave early to catch a train, whatever it might be. If you cannot do it at home, you don't have to do it in the sukkah. And therefore, the same is in our situation. In the situation that the second Lubavitch Rebbe, or the sixth, the previous Rebbe, is talking about, as the Goydel Agilush Besukkah is a many of Veikuv Tzushena, that they felt this and sensed their godliness that is so powerful in the Sukkah, and that prevents them from sleep. Therefore, they don't dare excuse. If they were home and they felt such a great energy, they wouldn't be able to fall asleep. The same applies in the sukkah. In them, says the Rebbe, it's not so clear everything I just said. Is why, in summary, says the Rebbe, that the spiritual aspect of the Torah, the esoteric, the Kabbalah part of the Torah, is one part of the revealed part of the Torah. And therefore, if the Torah tells us that you're supposed to also sleep in the sukkah, how do you justify it? Because of the spiritual energy of God. But that contradicts Jewish law. So we have an excuse. We have a good excuse. You wouldn't sleep at night at home in that situation, so you don't have to sleep in the sukkah. Okay, but after all, the revealed part of the Torah, meaning Code of Law, tells us sleep in the sukkah. Now I learned that it's impossible to sleep in the sukkah. It doesn't make sense. Did you understand the question?
Yes.
I hope so. Says the Rebbe. The Rebbe tried to bring different answers, and he kind of proves that that's not a good solution. The Rebbe says that maybe majority of people don't feel the energy of the sukkah, therefore they have to sleep in the sukkah. Says the Rebbe, okay, I understand you follow majority. The Torah is talking about majority of humanity. But, says the Rebbe, that's not proper, because Code of Law applies to all Jewish people, not just majority. And the fact that you have leaders who did not sleep in the sukkah because of the energy is too powerful, it should have not been made it into the Code of Law that you have to sleep. Because after all, the leaders are not able to, because they do sense it. And as we started by saying that the spiritual aspect and the revealed aspect of the Torah, the simple aspect of the Torah, are one. If somebody who is into the spirituality is able to sense such a great energy and therefore is exempt from sleeping in the sukkah, why is it in the Code of Law?
So it's in the Rebbe's Code of Law?
It's in the Alter Rebbe's
in,
Code of
in all of Code of Laws.
Okay.
Alter Rebbe, Beit Yosef,
Okay,
yes,
so-
it's part of law. It's
All
in
right,
the
so-
Talmud.
We still got a problem.
V'hadra kushya leduchta. The question returned back. V'baldas loichitas admor azoken. Is mitzvahs yeshiva besukkah kolel oich sheina besukkah. Because according to the Alter Rebbe in Code of Law, part of living in the sukkah, the lifestyle that home has to be copied into the sukkah, and that includes clearly, simple text, includes also sleeping in the sukkah. Is it possible, wie kann man sagen, how is it possible to explain, as a Techen Pnimi von der Mitzvah is so that the essence, the spirituality aspect of the Sukkah is so powerful that it contradicts or prevents from the idea of sleeping. It doesn't make sense that the Code of Law and spirituality and Kabbalah will contradict each other. Do you understand that? Says the Rebbe, therefore, we need to go to a story of the Talmud that will shed light and solve the problem. Vet men das verstehen, we can explain that behekdem by introducing first was Chazal erzählen, our sages teach us in Talmud, tractate Sukkah, that deals with the holiday of Sukkot, benegea lesimchas beis hashoeva, regarding the celebration of bringing drawing water and bringing it to the temple. Anybody heard of that? Simchas Beis HaShoeva, the holiday of Sukkot, is the only holiday that's called our season of joy. In the prayer we say, Zman Simchas Teinu, Simcha is joy. The season of joy that gives us joy for the whole year is the holiday of Sukkot. How did they celebrate? Every morning, every day, they would go and draw water from a Ma'ayana Shiloach, from a spring called Shiloach, right outside the walls. Still, you can see it today. And they would bring the water and pour it as libation on the altar and dance all night. They would use a lot of torches, flames. They would use water. They would use all kinds of fireworks and all kinds of. I'm sure they had a bunch of DJs making sure everybody's happy. So this was the most joyous, happy occasion.
Just
Every night of Sukkot.
Okay.
And the Talmud described the joy that anyone who did not witness this type of joy have never witnessed true joy. In other words, it was the ultimate of joy. That's why we call it the season of joy. When it comes to this, so they would dance all night. By the way, if you want to experience a hint of it, every night in Crown Heights, on the corners of Kingston and Montgomery, they block off few blocks from dark, from about 10 p.m. until 5 a.m., 6 a.m. Thousands. There is a point that will be even 10,000 people are dancing and dancing and dancing. Search.
So where's the sleep? Where's the
They
sleep?
don't sleep.
No.
So it's going to solve our problem.
That will solve our problem. Here is a smart boy.
Yeah, but you can't go.
He's
seven-
also a listening boy. Listen to the class.
But you can't go 7 nights without sleeping.
Right. So they take shifts. Or as the Talmud, this is my own, but let's see, we call it bush swallow, but let's look over here. When I was young, it started the idea of the dancing every night in 1983, the end of 82. The Rebbe spoke about it and says, let's start it again. And so we would sleep, I would sleep by day and dance all night. And if I couldn't, so second, third night, I would sleep the night, but then they continue.
Where would you sleep?
In my bed. Wird man das verstehen, behegden was Chazal erzählen, we will understand it with the introduction of a statement in the Talmud tractate Sukkah. Benegel Simchas Beis HaShoeva, regarding the celebration of the drawing of water and bringing it to the altar. Kshoinu smeichim, when we were happy, Simchas Beis HaShoeva, celebrating the Simchat Bet HaShoeva, the time of bringing water, Lo to'amnu ta'am sheina, we didn't taste a hint of sleeping. Why? How is it possible? As Ali is asking, how can you not taste sleep? They would, what do you say? Menamne means when someone goes like that temporarily.
Nodding off.
Nodding, not to nod your head.
They were nodding and the shoulders of each other. So while they were dancing, holding shoulders, they would fall asleep. They were nodding on each other's shoulders. This is the Talmud, not me, not the Rebbe. The Talmud tells us.
Andy Fines mentioned one time when they have 24-hour shifts in surgery, that the surgeon was over the body of the person they're operating on, and the assistant would just sleep against the guy's back because he couldn't stay up 24 hours.
Wow. Okay.
That's
So
encouraging.
Well, the surgeon was doing the work. The second guy in command would nod out, and if he was needed, he'd get up. But that's how he done it.
all right. So here the Talmud tells us they did not taste a real sleeping, meaning they have not gone to bed. How would they fall asleep? While they were dancing, they would nod on each other's shoulders. Von dem is move on from this statement, it is clear, as in the Tag von Simchas Besa Shoevo, and the days of the celebration of joy with drawing of water, haben die Tanoim nicht geschlafen in the Sukkah, that the sages, our sages, did not sleep in the Sukkah. It says clear, they didn't sleep. While the Ferush is menamne me'ekis v'da'adade. The word is nodding on the shoulders of each other, is as the nimnum, as the nodding is given, not in this, that was not in the Sukkah, was while they were dancing in Jerusalem. There was no Sukkah there. Nor in Mokai Mazor, in the yard of the Holy Temple. The yard of the Holy Temple had no Sukkah. Where everybody joined together to celebrate Simchat Bet HaShoeva. There was no food, there was no drinking in the yard. You're not allowed to. It's a place of God. You have to show respect. They were dancing once a year, but there was no sukkah there. So where did they sleep? They were nodding on each other's shoulders.
They were allowed to come to the Beit
Yeah, they are zara if they are pure, if they are not defiled to a dead corpse.
They were allowed.
They're allowed to, sure.
certain
Ezras Yisrael. Ezras Noshim is Ezras Yisrael too. Is lichora need glatik. Says the Rebbe, something doesn't make sense. Why? Even though nodding on each other's shoulders is something you're allowed to do according to Jewish law, is aber baro, but it is clear as the Tanoim haben sich mishtadel given to become a mitzvah shishur b'sukkah kol shuva. The rabbis, the sages, try to fulfill the mitzvah of living in the sukkah all 7 days. Mit der größter idu, with the most stringent requirements. Mishnah, and as the Mishnah tells us, that's the words of the Mishnah. Call all Shiva Sayomim, all the 7 days. You must do your sukkah similar to the house, meaning every single day you are obligated to do whatever you do at home, to do in the sukkah. Now, at the same time, the Gemara goes on to tell us they didn't sleep in the sukkah.
So when you say all 7 days, we're talking also about Shmini Atzeret.
Right, 7 days. Now, Shmini Atzeret is another holiday, it's the 8th day.
So we're talking about through
The first 7, right. Is unvibald as ikar yeshivas sukkah achilo shtia v'shena. The most important part of life in the sukkah, to be moving from the house, is eating, drinking, sleeping, like Jewish law and the Talmud tells us. Vikumtes, how is it possible? As mesolachatchila koivea sein dem seder von chagigas chagasukos, that we have instituted the celebration of the holiday of Sukkot. They were creating a celebration, and they did it be'oifen in a way as they were not in outside the Sukkah, as is felt in the Shlemus von Sukkot Sekeva, that something is missing. Sleeping is missing in the Sukkah. It's missing. It turned out you do everything in the sukkah except sleeping. Sleeping is missing. Is the fun gufo gedrungen from that alone, from that particular behavior custom came out as a fellow in Meis Yoshen, even chutz sukkah, even when you sleep outside the sukkah, you can fulfill, according to all opinions, the mitzvah of sukkah. Oich lefi psak admor HaZokan anal, as mitzvah yeshuva sukkah is kel shenu besukkah. The key mitzvah besukkah is teshuva b'shlemus midem idu v'tanoim of mekam, given a mitzvah. And therefore comes out, because we see the rabbis did not sleep in the sukkah, so code of law tells you, you have to do whatever you do home, do in the sukkah. That eating, drinking, sleeping. At the same time, you find that the rabbis did not sleep in the sukkah. They were nodding on each other's shoulders. Therefore, comes out that fulfilling the mitzvah of living in the sukkah completely can be done without sleeping in the sukkah. Now we need to explain why, and that's what the Rebbe is going to do. The reason that it includes also sleeping in the sukkah is nicht der Perus in dem, as mitzvah sukkah legt der Ruf abazunde chiyufen shena b'sukkah. It's not that you have to serve God by living in the sukkah. How do you serve God? You have to eat, you have to drink, you have to sleep. That's not the case. Because then, if you don't sleep in the sukkah, you're missing a way to serve God. Nor es is bloß a prat von dem chiyuv klolu toshuvu ken tadura. The sleeping is included in the general idea of living your lifestyle in the house, moving it to the sukkah. And therefore, whatever you do at home, move it to the sukkah. You sleep at home, move it to the sukkah. You drinking, you socialize, you solve puzzles, you watch you surf on the internet, check emails, do it in the sukkah. In other words, there is no separate mitzvah for each one of them. There is a general idea. Teishvu, b'sukkah is teishvu shivas yamim. Leave, move you home, all its activities to the sukkah. And therefore, the most important activities are sleeping, eating, and drinking. Und wie bald das gilt, как wir so schon wird bestimmt, in Mokim Achila so davka, der diese drei Jahren im Gufa in der Iker von ihnen von Yeshiva Sukkah verbunden mit Achila davka. Wie der alte Rebbe sagt, beferisch als Achila, ui Iker mitzvah Yeshiva Sukkah, Maitam macht man die Bracha Achila Sukkah davka und die Bracha Achila patat Shir, Shein Avetil, weil sie sein im Schach und Tefillim Achila. From all three activities, says the Rebbe, eating in the Sukkah is the most important. How do we know? When you eat a meal, you have to make a blessing for Leisha Basukkah, to sit in the Sukkah. You don't make the blessing when you drink water. You don't make the blessing when you take a walk in the Sukkah. You don't make a blessing when you sleep in the Sukkah or you check your email. Eating, and the Code of Law tells us, it is the most crucial part of living at home. In other words, at home, I have many, so to say, extracurricular activities. I bring guests into the house. I surf the internet. I do a lot of things. But if you want to look at what's the pinnacle, the top of most important activity in the house, eating. And therefore, when you go to the sukkah, you're supposed to do everything. But the blessing for God commanding us to live in the sukkah must be done only when you eat and when you eat a meal. If I eat an apple, I don't make that blessing. If I eat bread, I do. If I drink Coca-Cola or coffee, I don't make the blessing. If I eat cake, because it's made out of grain, I make the blessing. In other words, you have sleeping, you have drinking, you have eating. Eating is the top.
So drinking a cup of coffee in the sukkah, don't say sukkah.
You don't say, of course. Only when you wash or you eat a cake.
Why cake?
Because it's made out of grain. It's satisfied.
But you don't make
satiate you.
Different bracha though. You don't have to
You
do.
don't borrow me mezonot.
Yeah. So
And then you do your Leisha Basukkah. This morning, I had coffee and cake. So usually I drink the coffee first and then I eat the cake. But I wanted the mitzvah of eating in the sukkah, the blessing, to be on everything. So I started the cake first. I do Leisha Basukkah, then I drink a little bit of the coffee. Did you understand that?
We're still back to why we're not sleeping there.
Says the Rebbe, that's why the sages, when they danced, they didn't do the nodding on each other's shoulders in the sukkah. They didn't walk to the sukkah to do it. They did it while dancing, because the most important is eating. And once you make a blessing on the eating, and you're so careful not to have any exception, then it covers for everything else, and you don't have to sleep in the sukkah.
It's a little weak.
Huh?
It's a little weak.
Why?
Sometimes the logic isn't so good.
So that's what the Rebbe is saying. The blessing is done only on eating, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you make eating completely done in the sukkah, it makes up for everything else. Does that make sense now?
Not really.
Okay, let me explain it again.
I understand what you're saying.
If I go to sleep in the sukkah, do I make a blessing?
Nope.
No. If I drink,
Yep.
no.
No.
If I eat,
Yes.
yes. Now, what if I do the eating not only on the main course, on main meal, but every small thing, including water or an apple or a candy
No
bar,
blessing, but
whatever?
you eat there.
You don't make the blessing,
But
but
you
you
eat the
show that the sukkah is the main place where you live, because the living quarter, the pinnacle, the expression, the essence of expression of living in the house is done through eating, not drinking or sleeping. When I take all of it, not just the important part, then I show that I really care about the sukkah to make it my home. And therefore, everything else takes second stage. That's what the rabbi is saying. That's the only way to explain that they are nodding on each other's shoulder outside the sukkah, because they are careful about every mitzvah. They should have gone to the sukkah and do it, but they didn't, because they fulfilled this mitzvah by eating everything in the sukkah. And therefore, says the Rebbe, every chassid wants to imitate his Rebbe. And therefore, if the Rebbe didn't live in the sukkah, for me, it's already not part of my living style. And that, says the Rebbe, let's hope that we're going to come to the real sukkah that Mashiach will build, that will cover all of us, include all of us, and we'll be able to celebrate and sense the energy that the sukkah omits. And that concludes our lesson. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi.